A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going home.
Has it ever occurred to you how strange this scene actually is? Arya was trained by the most secretive and feared cult in the world. She learned their ancient methods, their magic, their ability to switch faces. And then one day she basically says, "Actually, I'm Arya Stark. I'm going home." And Jaqen just lets her leave. Even normal criminal organizations don't let people simply walk away.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Usually, the only exit is death. So why does Jaqen let her go? And why does he smile? What if Arya was never supposed to stay in Braavos? What if she was being prepared for something much bigger from the very beginning? Even the start of their relationship is suspicious. When Arya first meets Jaqen on the King's Road, he is a prisoner in a cage.
You're called Ari. This man has the honor to be Jaqen H'ghar.
What was an elite assassin doing there? And more importantly, how did he get caught? To the gold cloaks and to Arya, he was just another criminal. But we know better. This is a man who can literally change his face. Are we really supposed to believe he was captured like a common bandit? Come on. When I watch these scenes, I'm always reminded of this moment.
Loki is a prisoner. And why do I feel like he's the only person on this boat that wants to be here?
Jaqen wasn't trapped. To a faceless man, a lock in a cage are just a suggestion. He could have escaped at any moment, which raises a very likely possibility. He was exactly where he wanted to be. What was his original plan? We can't be entirely certain. Some fans believe he was actually Arya's dancing master in disguise. Whether that's true or not, the Night's Watch convoy offered the perfect cover. Locked inside that cage, he was no one. He was entirely invisible, and from that invisibility, he could observe. But once he met Arya, his focus shifted. You might wonder, what could an elite assassin possibly see in her? At the time, she was just a dirty, frightened girl pretending to be a boy. But remember what the Red Woman said when she first crossed paths with Arya?
I see a darkness in you, and in that darkness, eyes staring back at me.
Melisandre was a priestess with prophetic visions of the future.
Eyes you'll shut forever.
He is a priest of the many-faced god. In his religion, all gods are just different faces of death.
There is only one God. That girl knows his name.
Including Melisandre's Lord of Light. If a red priestess could look at Arya and see a killer, it's hard to imagine Jaqen didn't see something in her too. So when the wagon caught fire and he begged Arya for the axe, he didn't do it because he needed help. But why then? Maybe he was running a test. He wanted to see how she would behave, and he wanted to bind her to him through a mystical debt. From that moment on, Arya wasn't just a traveling companion, she became his project. And as we'll see at Harrenhall, the coincidences were only just beginning. After a brutal journey, Arya arrives at Harrenhall. And guess who she meets there? Our old friend.
The girl says nothing.
He's wearing a Lannister uniform, perfectly blended into the scenery. Now ask yourself, what are the chances of these two accidentally meeting again in a random castle during the chaos of war? Almost zero. Whether he was tracking her step by step, or somehow knew she would end up there, Jaqen came for her. And then, he offers her a deal.
A man pays his debts. A man owes 3.
Did you also want Arya to name Joffrey, Cersei, and Tywin Lannister? But she didn't. And if you look closely, this entire contract makes absolutely no sense. Are we really supposed to believe the many-faced god works like a bank account? If that was true, imagine how many lives common doctors would owe the god of death. They save people every single day. If the rules were truly that rigid, think about the moment when Arya asks for his help to escape.
This would require more than one life. This is not part of our bargain.
No, Jaqen, it won't. Not unless you want it to. For a man like him, smuggling a little girl and her friends out of Harrenhall is a child's play. He doesn't need a massacre to do it. But instead of quietly sneaking them out, he slaughters a whole group of Lannister guards and hangs their bodies at the gate, completely blowing past the 1-for-1 quota.
3 lives I will give you. No more, no less. And we're done.
Why did he do that? Look at how he executes her first order. He doesn't quietly poison the tickler in his bed. He drops him from a wall right in front of Arya. He makes a spectacle of it. When he kills the guards at the gate, he leaves them hanging as a gruesome display. Jaqen didn't need to kill those guards to get her out. The entire contract was a setup. It was a show engineered for an audience of one. He wanted to impress Arya, to show her the power of being no one, and to make her beg to learn his secrets. And honestly, it worked.
Show me how. I want to be able to do it too.
When they finally escape the castle and meet on the road,
What are you doing here?
Waiting for you.
Jaqen drops the act and gives us our very first clue as to what his true endgame really is. If you like this kind of analysis, please subscribe so you won't miss the next video. Thank you.
If you would learn, you must come with me.
Where?
Far and away across the narrow sea to Braavos.
He offers her a choice. Come with him to Braavos and learn to become a faceless man. But it's the way he pitches this offer that changes everything.
The girl has many names on her lips. Joffrey, Cersei, Tywin Lannister.
Somehow he knows about Arya's death list. But that isn't even the strangest part. Look at what he says next.
Names to offer up to the Red Guard. She could offer them all, one by one.
Suddenly, the strict protocols of the Faceless Men vanish. There are no expensive contracts here, no heavy fees. He is openly telling her she can target whoever she wants. When Jaqen tells Arya she can offer her entire list to the Red God, he is dangling a carrot. He is offering her the one thing she wants most, revenge wrapped in a divine mandate. But then Arya refuses.
I want to, but I can't.
If you look closely at his face at this moment, you can see a flicker of genuine annoyance. Why did he need her so badly? Was it only because of the special potential he saw in her? Maybe that wasn't the only reason. Anyway, he doesn't force her.
Then we must part. A man has duties as well.
This single line probably confirms that he was originally in Westeros on his own secret business. But when he met Arya, he took a detour to recruit her. He didn't push her when she said no because he knew the tragedy of the war would eventually break her bonds to Westeros. He knew she would come to him. And as he turns to walk away, he drops the biggest bombshell of the entire scene.
Farewell, Arya Stark.
Arya never told him her real name. She was hiding her identity, yet he knew exactly who she was. Jaqen wasn't looking for just another orphan to erase and reshape. He wanted Arya Stark, the daughter of Winterfell. And as we cross the narrow sea into Braavos, we are about to find out why. Arya starts serving in a house of black and white, but this is where things start getting really strange. Arya gets the first contract, the insurance broker, who is actually a scammer. She is given a poison to add to his dinner.
A gift.
But she never does that. She spots a man from her list, Meryn Trant, in the harbor. She abandons her mission, steals one of the faces, sneaks into the brothel, and kills him. But when she returns to the House of Black and White, Jaqen's reaction is bizarre.
A girl has taken a life. That man's life was not yours to take.
Wait, what? You told her yourself that she can offer the people of her list to the god.
Names to offer up to the Red God. She could offer them all.
And now when she does exactly that, you are angry.
A girl stole from the many-faced god. Now a debt is owed.
How did she steal from him if she didn't save anyone but did exactly the opposite?
Only death can pay for life.
Same question. What does it mean death can pay for life? Whose life do you mean? How is it all supposed to work? If he was upset that she ignored the insurance broker, the timing wasn't even crucial. The broker wasn't going anywhere. She could have easily finished that contract the next morning. Anyway, to his mind, Arya failed. In such organizations, failure usually means death. Yet Arya isn't executed. She is blinded, beaten every day, and cast out onto the streets as a beggar. If all this story makes no sense for you, wait. What if I tell you that Arya was never supposed to be a faceless man in a traditional sense? And being blinded wasn't the punishment, but another stage of her training? Did you notice that only after getting blind, she finally started real training? She started learning to fight, to use her senses. Before that, she was only swiping the floor and playing the game of faces. But what was the plan? Arya killing Meryn wasn't a failure that got her punished. It was an evaluation. Arya passed the test by proving her absolute commitment to her targets, but she failed the execution. And this is where we need to understand how the Faceless Men actually see death. The Faceless Men weren't originally mercenaries. According to the lore, they began in the slave mines of Old Valyria, where the first faceless man gave dying slaves the gift of death. That idea never disappeared. They view death as the ultimate release, a sacred mercy, a sacrifice to the god. Notice that they never torture their victims. Jaqen even explicitly tells it.
Don't let her suffer.
The faceless men don't do that because torture satisfies the killer's ego. A clean death is simple, reliable, and respectful. It also makes practical sense. The more complicated and emotional the kill becomes, the higher the chance something goes wrong. If you kill someone, you kill them. That's it. You don't play with your victim. You don't demand confession or remorse. We all know what happens when your past traumas prevail over the goal to kill.
Oh no, you can't die yet. You haven't confessed.
Oberyn gives us the perfect example.
Who gave you the order?
He lost because his ego demanded a spectacle, a confession, and theatrical revenge. That mistake faceless men cannot afford.
If you're with your trouble when fighting happens, more trouble for you.
And that is where Arya failed. She passed the exam, but her score was not perfect. She did not just execute her victim cleanly, she made it too personal and emotional.
Do you know who you are? You're no one.
And he definitely did suffer. That's why this kill was not accepted as a sacrifice. It wasn't a gift to the many-faced god. It was an act of raw, human vengeance. But the most interesting part comes later, when she is given the second chance. The choice of targets in Braavos is no accident. First, a man in the harbor, where she happens to spot Meryn, and then
An actress who calls herself Lady Crane. She performs at the theater in Shilba Square.
this contract is even more special. Over and over again, Arya had to watch the most defining trauma of her life, her father's execution, reenacted as a crude comedy. It was grotesque. It was horrible to watch. But maybe that was the point. To become a true weapon, Arya had to stop behaving like a traumatized child. She had spent years reacting from pure pain and rage. Jaqen was trying to turn her into something colder. By observing the play, she was forced to detach herself from the raw, suffocating pain and accept it as a reality she could no longer change. She even began to understand the other side of the stage. She started looking at the Lannisters not just as monsters, but as human beings with their own motivations.
The Queen loves her son, more than anything.
Arya realizes that Cersei, for all her malice, was driven by a common human love for her children.
And he was taken from her before she could say goodbye. She wouldn't just cry.
Arya didn't forgive her. Cersei remained at the very top of her list, but she finally understood her.
She would be angry. She would want to kill the person who did this to her.
That is a major upgrade. That's the difference between a child driven by rage and someone who can kill without losing control. This brings us back to the game of faces. On the surface, it's a tool for deception, learning to tell a lie and spot one in others. But there is a much deeper, more dangerous layer.
I'm not playing this stupid game anymore!
We never stop playing.
The person we lie to most often is ourselves.
A girl lies. To me, to the many-faced god, to herself.
Before you can become no one, you have to understand exactly who you are. You have to face the parts of yourself you don't want to admit. Think about the Hound.
I'll give you one try, girl. Go on, hit me.
Arya had the chance to kill him, but she didn't. She told herself she left him to die out of hatred.
I left him in the mountains to die. I wanted him to suffer. I hated him.
But the game of faces forced her to confront the truth. She had removed him from her list.
He was not on her list anymore. She had taken him off it.
And she was too proud to admit it. Only after she was blinded and beaten many times did she finally admit.
Didn't she want him dead any longer?
She did, and she did not.
So when she is ordered to kill Lady Crane, a decent woman who has done her no harm, Arya chooses not to do that, because now she knows exactly who she is and what she wants. She does not want to kill an innocent. She doesn't just fail the contract, she warns her.
Careful of that one. She wants you dead.
Was this a mistake, Or was it exactly what Jaqen wanted her to do? Of course, she understands that this time she will not be forgiven. Jaqen was very clear about that.
A girl has been given a second chance. There will not be a third.
Waif is after her, and Waif is given instructions.
Don't let her suffer.
But look at what she actually does. She doesn't use quick poison. She doesn't go for a clean, silent kill. She stabs Arya in the stomach instead, guaranteeing a slow, horrible death. I always wondered, what is the chance to survive after swimming in a filthy canal with such a wound? But let's assume it's also a kind of magic. The waif's behavior is telling. She hunts Arya down the next day, brutally murdering Lady Crane in the process. Again, she had every opportunity to finish the job quietly. But Waif breaks the very rules the Faceless men supposedly live by. She makes it personal. She hunts Arya like a Terminator, not like an assassin carrying out a clean contract.
On your knees or on your feet?
She is looking for a spectacle, not a service to the many-faced god. And that is exactly where she fails. Arya lures the waif into her hideout and kills her in darkness.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That is what she was trained for. And then we finally arrive at the moment that makes this entire story so interesting.
Finally, a girl is no one.
A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going home.
When Jaqen lets her go and seems genuinely pleased, the typical explanation is that the balance was restored because the waif's face was added to the hall.
But here you are, and there she is.
But as we've seen, the Faceless men don't care about bureaucratic balance. There was no contract on Arya. What if that final confrontation was the real final test? Judging by Jaqen's face, he got exactly what he wanted. So what exactly was Arya being prepared for? As I said earlier, Arya was never supposed to be a common assassin. When Jaqen recruited her, he knew she was Arya Stark. He could have trained any orphan, but he chose her. Why? Think about everything Arya actually learned in Braavos. She learned how to lie, how to wear another identity, how to read people, how to stop fear and trauma from controlling her. But there was something more important. She learned to function in the dark, to fight, to move. She could be invisible, she could move through shadows. What kind of enemy may require these skills? Who is the worst enemy of the Faceless men, of Arya, of all people, and of many-faced God? As we remember, Faceless men treat death as a gift that has to be delivered precisely and with respect. Every person deserves this gift. And who is the one who treats death in the most terrible way? The Night King. The many-faced god doesn't serve men, but the Night King threatens death itself, and that's their domain. To the House of Black and White, the Night King isn't just a political threat to the whole realm. He is the ultimate abomination. He steals souls from the many-faced god and makes death disgusting. Melisandre also knew that. She was a priestess with supernatural abilities too.
The true war lies to the north, my king. Death marches on the wall.
What if Jaqen realized someone like Arya might eventually be needed? He knew the Night King cannot be defeated by common means. He needed a ghost, someone who could bypass an army of 100,000 whites, move through the dark, and strike with precision, and who is motivated to do that. Arya was perfect for this. She was a Stark, and if the dead ever came for the North, Arya would go home to fight. But she won't do much, so she must be prepared. And that is what Jaqen did. When she told Jaqen that she's Arya Stark and she's going home, he got exactly what he wanted. He did not let her go. He deployed a weapon. And see how she ended the Night King. She managed to get past all these living corpses. She was after a clean kill, and she succeeded. So what do you think? Maybe all of this is just a coincidence. Or maybe the Faceless Men storyline makes a lot more sense once you stop looking at Arya as a normal assassin. Tell me what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.